The Giza Plateau was an open quarry. Anybody could take the casing stones or anything they could grab. And they got to a point where they just couldn't take anything more off it. When they first found it, it was sealed. And they didn't know how to get in. And so what did they do? They attacked it with bombs. They used explosives. Yeah. They still couldn't get in.
Yeah, okay? I mean, and it's funny because the irony there is that explanation that you just went through, which is essentially the documented explanation of record, is more preposterous than the idea of even a theoretical understanding of physics and vibrational frequency, to, you know, which is now at least being opened up to in terms of, you know, using that to move stones. That is actually less preposterous than the idea of the Ten Commandments explanation, I guess. One of the things that is obviously an obstacle for people like Dr. Boulter is being able to not just get the truth, but get access to the facts, the evidence, the locations, to do the work that they do that allow us to see a better perspective of the truth. We're going to talk to her about that a little on the other side. You are watching the One Network.
For thousands of years, the pyramids and the Sphinx stood as sentinels on the open desert. Yet, in recent years, a 20-mile wall, 14 feet high, was installed around the enormous site of the Giza Plateau. There are about 100 armed guards patrolling the pyramids at night. Applications for investigative academic research, while entertained initially, are almost all routinely refused. Unlike in times past, tourists are now being restricted from taking photographs in the Egyptian Museum. The monuments of Egypt are World Heritage Sites. Why is access and legitimate scientific research being systematically restricted? Much of ancient Egypt remains undiscovered. Satellite images show traces of buried structures that are still not excavated. In the name of protecting sites, are Egyptian authorities preventing us from learning the truth about our ancient past? Despite strict regulations on what kind of research is allowed, there is still an extraordinary amount of evidence that shows that the ancient Egyptians had knowledge that has been lost.
We don't have the technology to build the pyramids now. Not even close. We're not the most evolved we've ever been. And that is one of the blinders that has stopped us from imagining that the ancients could have been far smarter than us.
Welcome back to the One Network. Our guest today, Dr. Carmen Boulter, the brains behind the excellent 5-part documentary series, The Pyramid Code. We're going to link that up on the site so you can take a look at that. I strongly suggest checking out thepyramidcode.com, the website, as well as the book Angels and Archetypes and Evolution, Evolutionary Map of Feminine Consciousness. And that's something we're going to get to in a second. But before we do, Dr. Boulter, you know, I'm sure you've been called various things, the Canadian Indiana Jones or whatever it might be, in terms of, you know, being a modern-day explorer, going to this, you know, this incredible place, but also to South America, to Greece and other parts of the world, and really gaining a deep, comprehensive understanding of ancient civilizations, their structures, their cultures, etc. Egypt obviously is, you know, like you said, it's the Grand Central Station, the Mecca, if you will. That in and of itself presents problems in terms of being able to get to the truth, because for a lot of people, they might not understand what you have to go through and what you've had to go through just to be able to get access to some of this information and some of these sites. And still to this day, they don't make it easy to be able to really see what we need to see to extract real truth.
Quite the contrary. They have everything under lock and key. The answer to everything is no. Even if you have permits, they still say no. And it's a tragedy because many people around the world have very good ideas about what the pyramids could be, and they want to do simple little experiments that wouldn't hurt anything. And everything is brought in, has been in history brought into the Department of Antiquities for 2 years. Yes, yes, show us your work, show us this, show us that. And at the very end, security, no, forget it. And then 2 years later, they come up with what they choose to come up with as their own. And so the corruption is abominable. Zahi Hawass has been in there for 25 years. Robert Boval, who you mentioned earlier, is actually writing a book. He just started it this week, actually. I was talking to him. He's living in Spain. He was born in Egypt, and he's co-authoring the 25 years of corruption of Zahi Hawass.
Wow.
And I'll be reading every word of that, and it's going to be a big, thick book of antiquities theft and selling things on the open market. How do you think Mubarak ended up with so much money? And so the thing is, don't bring out the truth and line your own pockets with money. And that's what our culture seems, governments around the world, that seems to be the modus operandi. If you don't get caught, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
And so an ordinary person with good ideas, they don't even want you taking pictures. And the reason they don't want you taking pictures in the National Museum is that they're date and time stamped, and they're in there ransacking the place, pulling display cases right off the wall. There was an exhibit that went to the Metropolitan Museum of the Hatshepsut statues, 28 of them that were found all at once, all broken at the Deir el-Bahri at the Temple of Queen Hatshepsut. And I went and saw this exhibit in New York. Then I went back to Egypt. And do you know all those statues that usually are in the showcases in the 18th Dynasty New Kingdom? Never went back to Egypt.
Wow.
And the stories go on. I've got files 3 inches thick of this material. And so the fact that I got to do any of it is a complete miracle. And I don't know that I could do it again. Now, there's a changing of the guard in Egypt, which may make it better. It may make it worse. But a lot of these sites are not accessible in any case. And I'm telling you, they bury stuff that has anomalies. And they lie. And so I had support from the embassies, the Canadian embassy in Egypt and the Egyptian embassy in Ottawa. And I went and did research in the archives. But I also was friends with the family, the Fayed family, Princess Diana's Dodi Fayed. At the end of the British occupancy, all the land around the Giza Plateau was given to their grandfather, and I'm friends with this family.
Oh, wow.
And so the champion was the one that held the keys to the pyramid. And the reason that his name is the champion is he's in the Guinness Book of World Records because as a young man, he used to run up the pyramid in his bare feet in 4 minutes and down in 3. Well, I've climbed that pyramid twice and the small pyramid once, and it takes 45 minutes to get up there.
We've had we just had your mic cut out a bit there, Dr. Boulter. Could you repeat that?
Just that the champion's in the Guinness Book of World Records. As a young man, he used to run up the pyramid in 4 minutes and down in 3. I've climbed the Great Pyramid twice and the Small Pyramid once. It takes 45 minutes to get up there. And so the champion had the keys to the Great Pyramid. And when Zahi came along, he was an undergraduate archaeologist, and he built his way up through the ranks. And just before the champion died, he summons me, asked me to come for tea, and said, I'm going to take you to Zahi tomorrow. I said, okay. I didn't know what he was going to say. And when we got there, Zahi was all gruff, and are you a New Ager, and what do you want, and all this stuff. And I wanted to see the pre-restoration pictures of the Sphinx. Anyway, so champion said, plain as day, he says, I'm going to pass away. You know who I was to you. And before I die, I'm asking you one favor. And I'm sitting there going like, whoa, this will be interesting. I wonder what he's going to ask him. And he said, anything that I ask for, Zahi is to say yes.
What?
And he did.
That is, I mean, there's got to be nights you lie awake at night thinking, what did he know, and what is my purpose, and how did he know what my purpose was?
Well, that's the thing, though. If you hang around the pyramid long enough, you can see right into somebody's head. Yeah,
that's and I got to believe also somebody like yourself that's been there as many times as you have and knows as much as you do about this essentially 15% of what is really down there, so to speak. What do you think the other 85% would tell us? What do you think's down there, and what do you think it would ultimately reveal?
Okay, well, let's think about it here, because if they are really 50,000 years old and they are multidimensional, multifunctional structures, so over the years, they would have been used for different things. But It's my conviction, and this has been, confirmed by indigenous wisdom keepers and various people who have been in sections, that the entirety of the Band of Peace, from Abu Raush, 6 pyramid sites heading south, so the Giza Plateau, Abu Sir, Saqqara, and Dashur, and Abu Ghraib, that they have a network, a honeycomb passageways, and Hakim himself, who's passed on now, would swim and walk and crawl in these passageways, that the honeycomb passageway was part of the energetic exchange, but now those passageways are largely blocked. Some people think that if you get into the passageways that you can just walk forever and you can stand up in there. Some of them are natural. Some of them are carved, some of them are lined with granite, and some of them are just natural from the limestone aquifer. So it's partially man-made, and it's partially the porousness of the limestone that has eroded over time through the water. Now, with the river flowing right beside, each year when the river flooded, it would have filled up these honeycomb passageways, but they're blocked inside. They're filled, the holes used to go all the way up into the surface of the earth, which is how you would get the beam of the sun on the water. But they're filled up, and most of them are full of garbage now. And so I spent about 5 years going on the plateau every night when it closed and looking around, digging around, coming face to face with a red fox and Lord knows other little critters in there, and getting very dirty indeed and dusty to find most of these passageways are blocked, but not in the distant past.
And I mean, again, the answers that could be found under there as to what is and maybe the ultimate question, the relationship between Egyptian culture and our species evolution. If what it looks like to be true, let's say that when we talk about the missing link theory, which is again one of science's embarrassing weaknesses, that's the conclusion that was settled on, that this particular species evolved at a certain rate over a certain time, and then bam, all of a sudden a few years later we're building pyramids, we have incredibly advanced astronomy, geometry, engineering skills. It would seem that whatever the answers are about the truth of Egyptian culture seem to be the answers about human culture.